And I think I actually got a bit of a dud of a figure because, yeah, the arm just pops off so easily. What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Chris's Custom Collectibles. And today, we are going to be pimping out the McFarlane Toys Thanos figure. We are going to be pimping out the McFarlane Toys DC Multi-Universe Zack Snyder's Justice League Darkseid. Gotcha. This video has been a long time coming, geeks and geekettes, in terms of the planning process, in terms of getting the paint scheme right for this guy, and also replicating his throne we see very briefly in the film. So, in terms of the paint work, here's a little test I've done. Now you're probably thinking, oh my god, he's got a head start. I kind of had to, just to make sure I've got the method down pat. So I've only done this boot here and this gauntlet here, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what we're aiming for, because Darkseid's armor is very particular in terms of the paint scheme. Some people replicate it in a metallic brown, just a flat metallic, or a metallic blue. We are going to be going for the metallic blue. The reference I'm going to be using for the paint scheme for the figure as well as the throne is from the Weta Workshop statue, which looks absolutely brutally beautiful. Absolutely love the thing. So that is going to be our point of reference for paint and the throne. Now, in terms of making the actual figure over, it is so piss easy. In fact, making the throne is going to be more complicated and more time consuming than pimping out the figure itself. Irony. First step is we're going to dismantle this guy, and I think I actually got a bit of a dud of a figure because, yeah, the arm just pops off so easily. We're going to take the other arm off, we're going to take his head off, we're going to take his tunic off. We're also going to have to probably do some dremeling on the underside, and I'll show you guys once I remove his tunic. Obviously, we need him at a seated position with the throne, and we need some more mobility in his upper legs. So first things first, we've got to dismantle this bad boy, but that being said, let's get to it. Alright, geeks and geekettes, this figure is one of the greatest and most convenient figures to pull apart. It's just going to make customizing and painting so much more easier. And I just realized, as you guys just saw, the feet and boot spats come off, which is amazing. It's just going to make life so much more easier. So the first step is we've got to cut out some excess part here of the groin, because obviously these legs are going to be up in a sitting position. And usually you can use a Dremel, but the plastic is thin enough that we can use a Stanley knife or X-Acto knife, modeling knife, just to carve out some more space here for the legs to safely and easily tuck more up in a seated position. Once that's done, I'm happy with it. I'm happy how he's going to be posed. We're then going to get some black shoe polish and cover everything with black shoe polish. Literally everything, apart from this boot here and this section of the arm on the right arm, but literally we're going to cover everything in black shoe polish. We're not going to dab away the excess. We're going to leave it all to soak in, because we're going to be doing this in reverse. Usually I use black shoe polish towards the end for weathering, but we're actually going to be building the weathering in reverse. We're going to be laying down the weathering first and then dry brushing for the armor and his skin. And just so it's reversing the process. And it's one of those things where I've used it quite a lot, especially with Michael Myers masks, and it helps, and it's amazing, and it's really, really fun to do. So after we cut away the excess part of the groin here, we're going to coat the entire figure with black shoe polish. Alright, geeks and geekettes, now that we've let the shoe polish soak in, now keep in mind I did give it hit with the hairdryer, all the pieces, and let them soak for about an hour just to really adhere to that plastic. So the next step is we're going to be dry brushing on a grey acrylic from Liquitex, a neutral grey. I've used this on Batfleck before, as well as some other custom collectibles. So it's a very high quality acrylic. The thing is, it also loves to dry very quickly, but we're going to be dry brushing this all over the greyed out shoe polished areas, his bare skin. And I've already gone ahead and done his right arm. Look at that beautiful detail that is picked up in that sculpt. So like I said, we're reverse weathering this figure where we lay down the darker color first and then dry brush over the lighter color to expose all that scaly goodness right there. And I just really love how this has turned out. This is a beautiful sculpt. So again, the nature of dry brushing, just get a little bit on the brush and then work your way over. And I'm gonna be doing that on all his exposed skin parts. So I guess the biggest thing is having a sense of unity and uniform, just to make sure all the skin parts when joined together, like when this section joins up to the deltoid, the shoulder part, it looks the same and it doesn't look like a different shade of grey or like I haven't dry brushed enough on one certain part. So if you are following this method, always keep a sense of unity. I told you guys this wouldn't take long to do in terms of the figure. So now that we've done the dry brushing on his exposed areas, and again, very, very happy with the end result. The detail on this figure is just amazing. Absolutely love it. So the next step is we're gonna do his armor. So the first step, and we're gonna be emulating this boot spat and this gauntlet. The first step is we're gonna get some silver rub and buff and dry brush it all over the armor. So this is the look we're going for. This is the desired look we're going for. We're gonna let that rub and buff sit for about a good hour because rub and buff is very sporadic. Sometimes it wants to dry quickly, other times it takes forever. So there'll be times where, you know, I'll do this. For example, I've painted this with rub and buff, dry brushed it on, and 2 hours later, I'm handling it and it's still coming off on my hands. So we're gonna let it really sit and dry. Now, because we don't want a full metallic sheen to his armor, we're going to incorporate some blue into it. And this is a blue effects wash from Testers from their Create Effects series. Unfortunately, they no longer make this. It is discontinued. The reason I found this, when I was at my local hobby shop, they had a bin full of this stuff and they go, mate, just raid whatever you want in there and take it. Like, no one's buying this. And I got this on a whim and finally I can use it. So the blue wash will mix with the metallicness of the rub and buff, if that is a word, metallicness, and it will give a metallic blue hue to the armor, much like Darkseid's armor in Zack Snyder's Justice League, because his armor does change and shift tone a lot. It's a fascinating way that they've done the armor, but this is what we're going for. This is the aesthetic we are going for. So once those steps are complete, I'm going to put him back together, and if you're wondering why I'm keeping him in this pose constantly, it's because I really want all the weathering and all the work we've done on the joints here to set, because if I crank them back straight, it may scrape the paint off. And obviously we are going for a sitting pose with this figure. So when I do put him back together, I am going to keep him like this whilst we make the throne. So once this step is complete, put him back together and I'm going to seal him up with a matte sealer. And I actually found a brand new matte sealer and I'll show you guys that one that's working just as well as the Testers one. But for the time being, we're going to dry brush on our rub and buff and then apply our blue effects wash. Okay, so remember I said I was going to introduce to you guys a new dull coat that I used in favor of the now, I want to say discontinued, but no longer available in my local area Testors dull coat. This is from the Army Painter. It's anti-shine. I found this online. In fact, I saw a video of someone comparing this to the Testors dull coat, and if anything, this one has more of a dull coat than the Testors, so it's pretty affordable too. So now that Darkseid is pretty much all done and dusted, we're gonna seal him up with a few light dust coats of this and then let it set for a good 24 hours because the paint and the weathering is still somewhat fresh. We don't want it chipping off or anything like that. And then we're gonna get started on the throne, geeks and geekettes. This has been a very fun build and I can't wait to finish the throne and have it all come together. All right, geeks and geekettes, before we move on to constructing the throne, I just want to give you guys a good look of how Darkseid has turned out. I'm really happy with the end result. His color scheme is very muted. There's not much going on, but yet there is at the same time, if that makes sense, in terms of the detailing of his armor. Really happy how we've kind of emulated that muted metallic gunmetal grey/blue. The next step with this figure, some people may agree with, some people may not, but in terms of the look we're going for of emulating him sitting in the throne, I'm going to be permanently gluing him in the seated position. And the reason being is because when I do try to pose him, he eventually like flexes back to a very awkward kind of posture. So what we're gonna be doing is gluing the ab crunch here, and I've gone ahead and taken a bit off the bottom of his torso armor here just so it helps with the ab crunch. So we're going to be gluing that area there and also permanently gluing the legs up because again the legs do want to pop back down and it just won't look natural. But in terms of going all out, posing him on the throne, I'm permanently going to glue him in place. So once I'm happy with how I've posed him, we can then start drawing up and measuring up the throne pieces. So it's going to be a mixture of foam, insulation foam, balsa wood, stuff like that. Really excited about this one. Just give you another good look at him. Nice little turnaround there. Again, just really stoked with how this one's turned out. I love painting these McFarlane Toys Geeks and Geekettes. The detail is just absolutely stunning on these. They're just a great blank canvas. Alrighty, let's get to gluing him and then we can move on to the throne. Alrighty, geeks and geekettes, we are back in the old school workshop to start construction on the throne. So the main material we're going to be using is a multi-use foam board. You can get this stuff from Bunnings Warehouse. It is a dream to sand because unlike usual foam, which kind of beads away when you sand it, this stuff goes really smooth. So what I've done is I've got 2 block strips already and I've attached them together using a spray adhesive from 3M. This stuff is great and very, very strong because 2 of these stacked up is the perfect height for Darkseid to sit his little caboose. So we're going to be using this thickness for the seat itself and for the side arm rest. Now, I also have another raw piece that I do have to go in and sand down. This is going to be the base. Now, all the other attachments, all the other little decorative pieces are going to be made from balsa wood. So essentially what you're going to see now is a montage of how we're going to do this. So it's going to be a mixture of gluing pieces down with the cheap and nasty super glue from Bunnings, as well as the spray adhesive. So we're going to be doing a lot of hand sanding because there are some angled off edges like this here. As you can see, I've done a practice here, especially on the armrest. They're angled off. So we're going to be doing that by hand with sandpaper and also our orbital sander. Once everything is glued together and I'm happy with it, we can then move on to priming, painting, calling it a day. Alright Geeks and Geekettes, before we start carrying on to attaching the balsa wood accents, just want to show you where we're at the moment. I'm very happy with our progress so far. So this piece here is MDF. I didn't have a piece of the foam core the right thickness for this step here, so I ended up using some MDF, and this is all attached so far with the spray adhesive from 3M. So the next step is we're going to coat this entire piece with some supercast from Barnes. This is the resin I use a lot of, but it's also great for coating and sealing up. So the purpose of using the supercast is to seal up all the joints, even though I have gone in with the builder's bog. Those were for the bigger holes and the bigger seams. But the supercast will streamline everything, especially here around the throne, up here per se, and just along the joints here where the armrests are. Once that's dry, I'm going to give it a quick spray with primer just to see how it looks aesthetically, if anything needs sanding or rebogging or re-supercasting, and then we can move on to the balsa wood accents. Alrighty, now that all the accents have been completed, we've covered the entire thing with primer filler. We're going to start texturing it before we can move on to painting. And for that, we're going to be using the Dulux Duramax Granite Effect. You guys have seen me use this before for like emulating roads and stuff like that for other custom collectibles. So we're going to lightly spray the entire piece with this stuff. And what that'll do is just unify the whole piece and give it a nice rough grok-like texture. Alrighty, now that we've let the flat black fully dry, we can go on to weathering it and doing the final color stages of the throne. So for the main color, we're going to be using Spanish Copper Rub and Buff and just dry brushing it over the entire throne until we reach that lovely happy medium. What that's going to do is obviously emulate the brown, but give a nice kind of sheen, like a royal kind of copper sheen to it. We're then going to get our grass green and sky blue acrylics and mix them together to create a turquoise. Now that turquoise is going to emulate oxidizing and that nice patinaing that goes on in the throne that Weta has done. So especially in these pieces here where all the holes have been bored out and just general wear and tear all over the throne. Now once that's done, we're going to be using the same matte sealer to seal this piece up, and then we can finally call it a day. 2 full days work just to get to this point, and it only took me half a day to repaint Darkseid, but it's going to be well worth it, Geeks and Geekettes. And there we have it, guys. The McFarlane Toys Darkseid custom collectible is done and dusted. Absolutely stoked and over the moon with how he's turned out. And the throne is just the cherry on top, even though it took longer to do than the figure itself. Now, a few things. If you guys are going to permanently pose him like this, you can always seal up these joints, which I might do in the future. But in terms of the arms, I left them as is. And obviously, I opted for this pose instead of the pondering pose because it just didn't look natural as he wasn't leaning down enough. So holding his staff, I think, works pretty well. Now, in terms of how I did the staff, the exact same way I did the armor, apart from the blue effects wash. So thanks very much for watching, guys. This was a massive video to do, but I'm so happy with how it turned out and I hope you guys dug it. Next week, I will hopefully have a tutorial up on how to customize a Trick or Treat Studios Halloween Kills Michael Myers mask. It should be here any day now, and I'm very excited about this one. Halloween Kills is just around the corner and I can't wait. Guys, wherever you are in the world, have yourselves an absolute cracker of a day. I hope you're well, hope you're happy, be merry, be silly, and until next time, geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.